How's it going, everyone? The Trout 91 here for the gameplay section of Gun in 60 Seconds, looking at the combat shotgun this time. And if you found your way over to this video, I appreciate you dedicating a few more extra minutes to hear some more about this class, because I think I like the Gun in 60 Seconds premise videos, but there is so much more to some of these guns that I want to talk about, and there's only so much time I can actually do it. And the reason I do it in 60 seconds is for those short attention spans and a quick little guide. If you want to know what the best thing to run on a certain class is, here you go, there it is. You don't have to wait 10 minutes plus some adverts to actually find out what it is. But if you find you want to hear a little bit more about it, or a few techniques, this is what this video will hopefully do for you. Now, when I actually brought the shotgun out, I was thinking, oh god, this is going to be such a terrible time, because I've used better guns in this combat shotgun and had not very successful times out there. So when it gets to the snipers and the shotguns, I'm not too optimistic about my playing and how I'm going to get on, just because they can be so inconsistent and I don't use them very often. And shotguns for me, they haven't been particularly useful for a long time in Call of Duty, at least not from the very start, not unless you're willing to put the grind and effort into them, and it can be a bit annoying and a bit of a strain to have to go out and get the attachments and all the little bits and bobs you want to put on it to actually make it usable and viable. But this was not too bad. I think at the start it was a bit of a struggle because you don't really unlock very many attachments that are useful from the start. Going through them right now, reflex sight, absolutely pointless. There's no use for this. It's just a waste of space, in my opinion. Like, who really needs to be that accurate with a shotgun? You just don't. Quick draw, I think, is relatively pointless, but the ADS time on the shotgun is pretty slow. Again, I wouldn't say you necessarily have to aim down sights. It just helps for a bit of accuracy when it comes to long distances. Steady aim is the first useful attachment you unlock, and what that basically does, it will decrease your crosshairs, which means it's condensing the space in which the shells will spread. So it means that more shells are going to hit your opponent rather than going off to the side and not hitting them. So it just means it gives you a bit more accuracy, and as a result, it actually gives you a bit more range. So obviously, shells, if they spread quite wide, there's less of them going forward in the direction you want them to, which means, you know, your range kind of decreases because you're not hitting as many of them. So you've got less damage at range because, obviously, you're basically losing those shells in a matter of sense. Once you condense it, they're much more tight. They're going to travel in the same area roughly, meaning that you can hit those guys who are a little bit further away because you will be hitting them with more shells. Is kind of how it works. It doesn't necessarily increase the damage, it just means that you're increasing the consistency of the damage, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Extended mags, you can get use of this. I still think it's a bit pointless because you can put 7 shells into the shotgun at once, and I don't think you're really going to ever need more than that, and it's a very quick reload as well, so I just think it's a bit pointless in that regard. Advanced rifling is the next best attachment. It's the second to last attachment that you're going to unlock for this gun. What it does is it increases the damage at range. So obviously where it starts, normally without it, you've got a certain amount of range where you will get a one-shot kill. And because it's increasing the damage at range and the damage falls off over a certain distance, it will basically allow you to increase the range at which the damage is done. So you had you had X amount of damage before at this range. You can now extend that to a further range. I'm not doing a very good job at explaining it, but hopefully you guys kind of get it. But basically, steady aim condenses your bullets, meaning that you've got more shells hitting the person, which means that when they're further away, you're getting a more accurate shot, so you can do more damage in that sense because you're putting more shots onto them. With advanced rifling, it is increasing the damage at range, so you can shoot further away even if you haven't got steady aim on, is effectively what I'm trying to say. But put them together, you have an absolute slobber knocker of a gun. It absolutely destroys people at range. And it can be a little bit hard without these two attachments to get by. You do really have to get up in their face because it can be a little bit inconsistent. But having these two attachments really does make it consistent at a lot of ranges. The next attachment, which is the final attachment, and the last one you unlock, is rapid fire. Now, I quite like rapid fire. I would still prefer to go with steady aim and advanced rifling. I think if you're playing on a map kind of like KARABIN, where you're doing a lot of movement in buildings. You're basically in people's face. I guess you could say steady aim and maybe advanced rifling aren't that necessary just because you're so close to them, you can't possibly not get a one-shot kill. But what happens if for some reason your aim isn't very good or you've got multiple opponents coming at you? What do you do then? Well, rapid fire will increase the speed in which you can take multiple shots. You can see in the video it is quite slow. It's not particularly quick in how many shots you can actually fire off in quick succession. So having rapid fire is a very beneficial attachment. I think because I play a lot of team deathmatch and I'm not going to have that many engagements at once, I don't tend to need rapid fire, and I'm quite happy having more consistent shots. But if you are playing more of an objective game mode, you're playing in quite close buildings, I would say probably go with rapid fire over steady aim. I don't think you're necessarily going to need it that much. But advanced rifling for me is definitely one that you should always have on. And obviously you don't really need that many attachments on a shotgun. There's only 6 available for you. Coming into the division, I always go with Airborne because you get that longer sprint distance. You get to climb over obstacles faster. You increase your sprint speed. And that's all this gun is about, is getting as close to people as you possibly can to do as much damage and consistent damage as possible, because that's where you're going to have a lot of troubles early on with this gun before you get any attachments. You want to be as close and personal as possible. You also don't want to be caught out in the open. If you're caught out in the open, where are you going to go? If there's no cover, you need to get to the next place that you can hide as soon as possible. So you want to get there pronto. So that's why I'll always go with the Airborne. I think Mountain's useful. Maybe if you're playing on a small map where you're not going to be doing so much sprinting, Mountain can be good, because if they do get a recon playing well, you're a bit stuffed. If they catch you at range, you've got no way of answering them. So Mountain can be good. A lot of people would expect me probably to say Expeditionary, just because you get the shotgun incendiary shells. But I don't see any point in that division other than the incendiary shells. And you only get 4 of them. They're a real big pain to toggle on and off. And even then, you can't always guarantee they're going to be a consistent kill. You tend to have to be less accurate, and they will usually result in a kill eventually by the guy burning away. And if at the start of using this shotgun, you are struggling to get those one-shot kills and you are struggling to get fatalities, I would definitely recommend putting it on to get you over that first hump, maybe to get you to steady aim. Just... it basically makes the class like you get a kill and then you're dead. That's all it really does as far as I'm concerned, is because you don't have very many of them. There's no other benefits to running that division, and you're kind of relying on the rest of your class, the map, and your basic training to do the rest of the work for you. There are some things you can do to combat that, but I would say go with Airborne, because there's no reason not to. There's just not enough benefits in the other divisions to actually run them. As far as the basic trainings go, I would say you could probably run Rifleman, because obviously if you want a reliable secondary, you can easily do that. You put on Requisitions, which means, you know, it costs more to get your streaks, but you can't have them once you've got them once, which I guess if you're really struggling as far as kills go with this thing and you want to feel better about yourself, you could put that on just to have a little bit more kill streaks. Maybe there's a kill streak you really want to get to make sure you can run this class as effectively as possible. It's definitely an option that you could put out there. Maybe like a counter recon to ensure you can run around aimlessly, bits and pieces like that. Another one is Energetic, something I ran a lot at the beginning when the gun wasn't very good. Just great for bigger maps. You basically have unlimited sprint once you pair this with the Airborne class, because all it does is it just makes your waiting time between sprinting a lot shorter. So once you've stopped sprinting, you basically can start sprinting again, and you just are a literal marathon running man. You just keep running as far and fast as you can. So it's a good little basic training to have. My personal favorite is the Gunslinger. I think it's the best for this. When you do have the Airborne class, I would say maybe with Energetic, you don't actually need that much running or sprint speed. You don't actually need to do that much running in general. So I think you can probably get away with not having to use it. If you are on a bigger map, it's probably useful. But again, I wouldn't say it's an absolute necessity on quite a majority of the maps. It's just the fact that it's very slow to come out of the sprint. There's no real attachment or class that allows you to come out of the sprint animation as quickly as you would want. At least I don't think there is. Actually, don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but I don't think there is. There's not one that works with what I've got going on here. So I tend to run Gunslinger. It basically means that I can run, and as soon as someone comes around the corner and catches me out, bang, pull the trigger and they're dead. There's no problem there. And I carry on moving at the same time. So I've not really got much to worry about, if you know what I mean. It just means that I'm always ready to get in the gunfight if I am approached by someone. And obviously it's a hip-fire gun, so I don't have to necessarily be super accurate with it like I would with an automatic or a semi-automatic. And I would always run a machine pistol with it just to give you that bit of range. If you don't feel like running rifleman, it just helps you out that little bit more. And running a smoke grenade is great for getting you over those spaces in the map where you might be caught out by gunfire. Overall, I really enjoyed this class. I was expecting a much worse outcome, but it ended up being one of my favorite classes to use once I got all the attachments and the class setup that I desired. However, it can be a bit of a pain at the start. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, do drop a like rating. Hopefully I'll see you for the next episode when we do some more guns. The next one's going to be the STG-44. If you've got any class suggestions for this one, feel free to drop them in the comments. Help anyone out who might be struggling with it. And I'll see you for the next episode. Peace out.